In what cases can the President grant pardon? The President of India has been given this special power of granting pardon. This power is available under Article 72 of the Constitution, and we will study this power through different questions. The first question is, in what cases this power of granting pardon is available? And the answer is this. The President can grant pardon to any person who is convicted. So first thing to be noted is that this power comes into play once the person is convicted. While the case is under trial and the conviction has not yet been made, then this power cannot be exercised. The power of granting pardon by the President can be exercised only once conviction has taken place, the court has given its decision and the person has been found to be guilty. So a person who is convicted by a court martial can be granted pardon. Secondly, a person convicted of any offense against a law on a matter within the executive power of the Union, he can also be granted pardon. And thirdly, any person who is sentenced to a sentence of death can also be granted pardon by the President. Convicted by a court martial means a court which is established under the Armed Forces Acts. We have different acts for the different wings of our defense forces. There is an Army Act, Air Force Act, and the Navy Act, and courts are established under these acts. Any conviction by a court martial will be covered under Article 72 and it will fall under the pardoning power of the President. So these are the three categories of persons who can be pardoned. A person convicted by a court martial, a person convicted of any offense against a law on a matter within the executive power of the Union, and a person sentenced to death. Now, next question is, what is the effect of a presidential pardon? Now, the pardon comes into play when the court has already convicted that person and he has been found guilty by a court of law. So, when we say that person has been pardoned, what is the effect of this pardon? The grant of pardon wipes off the guilt of the convict and brings him to the original position of innocence as if he had never committed the offense for which he was convicted. So he gets a clean slate. The offense is completely wiped off and the pardon brings him to the original position of innocence. This is important to note. The pardon brings him to the original position of innocence as if he had never committed the offense. So the grant of pardon affects both the punishment which is prescribed for the offense and also the guilt of the offender. Next question. Can the power under Article 72 be exercised by the President on his own, or has it to be exercised on the advice of the central government? Power under Article 72 is the pardoning power which we are discussing now. The question is whether this power which is available to the President has to be exercised by the President on the advice of the Council of Ministers, or he can exercise in his discretion on his own. And the answer is available in a Supreme Court decision. A constitutional bench of the Supreme Court held in Maru Ram versus Union of India that the power under Article 72 is to be exercised by the President on the advice of the central government and not on his own, and that the advice of the government binds the head of the Republic. The President is the head of the Republic, but he is bound by the advice, and this binding nature of the advice now is very specifically provided in Article 74 itself, which says that the President shall act according to the advice given by the Council of Ministers. Next question. Can there be a judicial review of the clemency power of the President? Now, one thing we have already seen, that the President is bound by the advice of the Council of Ministers when he is dealing with Article 72. when he is exercising a power given by Article 72. Next, the question before us now is whether the constitutional courts, that is the High Court and the Supreme Court, can they interfere in this exercise of the pardoning power or the clemency power of the President? Is there any scope of judicial review of the decision of the President as regards clemency or pardon given to a convict or not given? Of course, the President will exercise his powers only on the advice of the Council of Ministers, but do the constitutional courts also have a power to interfere in this exercise of power? The answer given by the Supreme Court is this: a limited judicial review of the exercise of clemency power is available to the Supreme Court and the High Courts. A limited judicial review of the exercise of clemency power or pardoning power is available to the Supreme Court and High Courts, only the constitutional courts. And this proposition of law was laid down by the Supreme Court in this case, Epuru Sudhakar versus Government of Andhra Pradesh. So yes, now the current legal position is that a judicial review is possible or available. Next question. What are the grounds on which clemency power can be challenged? Once we say that judicial review is possible, once we say that judicial review is permissible, then we also need to know what are the grounds on which such judicial review can be made. And these are the grounds. Granting of clemency by the President can be challenged in the High Court and Supreme Court on the following grounds. These are the 5 grounds. Number 1, it can be challenged if that order has been passed without application of mind. The order can be giving clemency or refusing clemency. If the order has been passed without application of mind, the constitutional courts can set aside such an order. If the order is nullified, second point. Third, if the order has been passed on extraneous or wholly irrelevant considerations. Fourth, where the relevant material has been kept out of consideration while arriving at the decision. And fifth, where the order suffers from arbitrariness. If it is an arbitrary order, it can be struck down by the High Court or the Supreme Court. Similarly, relevant material must have been considered, irrelevant material must not have been considered, the order should not be nullified, and the order must be passed with application of mind. These are the requirements. Next, we come to the question of impeachment of the President. We have seen how he is elected. We have seen what powers are vested in him. We have seen how he exercises these powers. And now is the time to understand how the President can be removed from his office. The removal of the President from his office is constitutionally known as impeachment of the President. So what is the procedure? The procedure is detailed in Article 61 of the Constitution, and this is in 2 stages. Stage 1 is known as preferring of the charge. The charge can be preferred by either House of Parliament. We should be clear as far as the ground of impeachment is, there is only one ground, and that is violation of the Constitution. So if there is a charge of violation of Constitution on the President, such a charge can be preferred against him, levelled against him by either House of Parliament. The only requirement is that a 14 days prior notice signed by at least 1/4 members of that House has to be given. Once that prior notice is given, then this charge can be discussed in the House, and the charge will stand preferred once a resolution is passed by that House with a special majority. And what is the special majority? The special majority is of not less than 2/3 of its total membership. So at least 2/3 of the total membership of that house must vote in favor of referring the charge. Then only the charge can be preferred. It is immaterial as to how many members were actually present at the time when the resolution was voted and how many members voted in favor of the resolution preferring the charge. The majority does not concern itself with the number of members present and voting. The majority concerns itself with the total membership of the House. For example, the total membership of the Lok Sabha is 545. So if a charge is being preferred against the President of India for his impeachment in Lok Sabha, then at least 2/3 of 545 members must vote in favor of the charge. Then only that resolution will be treated to having been passed. Then comes the second step, and that is investigation of the charge. The charge which was preferred by the first house will now be investigated by the second house, and this house will be known as the investigating house. After the investigation, if this second house also passes a resolution by the same special majority, what is the special majority? Not less than 2/3 of the total membership of the second house. If the second house passes a resolution by this special majority sustaining the charge, then the president shall stand removed. Next question. Who discharges the function of the president when there are vacancies in the office of both the president and the vice president? Now we are aware that when the office of the president is vacant, or if the president is unable to discharge his functions, then it is the vice president who steps in and he will act as the president, or he will discharge the functions of the president. Now we are talking of a situation where the office of the president is vacant and also the office of the vice president is vacant. Who will exercise the powers of the president and who will discharge the functions of the president in such a situation? In fact, this situation had arisen once in the year 1969 when the then sitting president, Dr. Zakir Hussain, had expired, and when election to the office of the president was about to take place, then the vice president wanted to contest the election, and for the purpose of contesting the election, he also resigned. So at that point of time, the president's office was vacant because the sitting president had expired, and the vice president's office became vacant because the sitting vice president resigned to contest the election of the president. So who should discharge the functions of the president in such a situation? This is the question, and the answer is available in Article 70 and a law passed under that article. The Parliament has been empowered by Article 70 of the Constitution to pass a law taking care of such a contingency, and in exercise of this power given to the Parliament under Article 70 of the Constitution, the Parliament actually enacted the President Discharge of Functions Act in 1969 for this contingency. What is the contingency? When the office of the President is vacant and the office of the Vice President is also vacant. And what is the provision contained in this enactment? This act provides as under: in the event of the occurrence of vacancies in the offices of both the President and the Vice President, the Chief Justice of India, or in his absence, the senior-most judge of the Supreme Court available, shall discharge the functions of the President. Kab tak? Until a new President enters upon his office or a new Vice President begins to act as President under Article 65, whichever is earlier. पहले चाहे प्रेसिडेंट अवेलेबल हो जाए चाहे वाइस प्रेसिडेंट अवेलेबल हो जाए, जैसे ही इन दोनों में से कोई सा भी अवेलेबल होगा तो द चीफ जस्टिस या जो भी सीनियर मोस्ट जज ऑफ द सुप्रीम कोर्ट हु वाज discharging the functions of the president, he will remit his office and the president or the vice president, as the case may be, will take over. So this law was enacted under Article 70 and this law takes care of this contingents.